What if Viserys I had named Daemon Targaryen as his heir? History is shaped by choices. One decision, one name spoken aloud, can alter the course of the world. In one timeline, King Viserys I followed his heart, naming his daughter Rhaenyra as his heir.
Do hereby name Rhaenyra Targaryen, Princess of Dragonstone, and heir to the Iron Throne.
But what if he had chosen differently? What if Viserys had chosen fire and blood over peace and diplomacy? The Iron Throne looms in the dim candlelight. Prince Daemon Targaryen stands before the court, clad in black and red. His smirk is confident, almost daring. In the shadows, Rhaenyra watches, her face unreadable, still mourning the loss of her mother. Otto Hightower's jaw tightens. Alicent shifts beside him, uneasy. The court is silent. The air thickens with anticipation. And then, King Viserys speaks. Prince Daemon Targaryen will be his heir. The words fall like a hammer. A ripple of whispers spreads. Shock, dissent, careful approval. Some nobles bow, others hesitate. Daemon lifts his chin, triumphant. He does not bow. He does not thank his brother. He simply smiles. Rhaenyra's fingers curl into a fist. She does not speak, but her silence is louder than words. Otto Hightower remains still, his expression unreadable. But behind his cold gaze, something sharp lurks. Something calculating. Daemon steps forward, his cloak billowing. His fingers graze the jagged edges of the Iron Throne. He does not sit. Not yet. The rogue prince has won his prize, but Westeros is no stranger to chaos. The realm expected stability. Instead, it got a storm. A rogue prince is no tame king. And soon, the realm will learn what that truly means. This is the story of a different Targaryen future. This is the story of fire, blood, and the reign of Daemon Targaryen. The fire burns low in the king's chambers, casting flickering shadows along the stone walls. King Viserys I Targaryen sits in his chair, his face pale, his breath slow, his eyes distant. The weight of years of rule, of duty, presses heavy upon him. Before him stands Daemon Targaryen, arms crossed, waiting, always waiting. For a crown, for power, for the moment that will finally place him where he believes he belongs. Viserys exhales, weary, his finger brushing the hilt of Blackfire, the blade of Aegon the Conqueror. His grip tightens as if holding onto more than steel, as if holding onto a truth heavier than the Iron Throne itself. Daemon watches, smirking, confident in his understanding of power. He has spent his life chasing it, seizing it where he can. But Viserys sees further, beyond the Game of Thrones, beyond ambition and war. Aegon did not take Westeros for greed, nor for glory. He took it because he saw what was coming, a vision, a dream, a warning, the end of the world of men, beginning with a great winter from the north. An endless darkness creeping over the land, and with it, creatures not of this world, cold, merciless, beyond death itself. The long night will come again, and only a Targaryen, united and strong, can stand against it. Viserys rises slowly, gripping Blackfire, his voice thick with the weight of history. The prophecy is not a story, not a myth, but a burden carried from king to heir, passed through generations since the conqueror's time. A song of ice and fire. Daemon's smirk fades. For the first time, he sees something unexpected in his brother's eyes. Fear. A dream, That is what Aegon built his dynasty upon. A dream that demands sacrifice, duty, and the unshaken will to rule. Viserys exhales, his certainty unshaken. They do not rule for conquest. They rule because they must. Silence lingers between them, heavier than any crown. Daemon has spent his life chasing the throne, but for the last time, he wonders, has he ever truly understood what it means to wear it? The war for the Iron Throne is not just a war of men. It is a war for the fate of Westeros itself. But the realm is not ready. The Targaryens are not united. And a house divided cannot stand against the coming storm. Daemon now knows the secret of the realm. But will he embrace it or twist it to his own vision? A prince without power is nothing. Daemon Targaryen is heir to the Iron Throne, but there is still one chain left binding him. His wife, Lady Rhea Royce of the Vale. A marriage he never wanted, a life he never chose, and soon a life that will no longer stand in his way. Before we get into what happened to Daemon's beloved wife, like and subscribe. A raven arrives from the Vale, its wings cutting through the cold morning air as it lands in the Red Keep. The King Viserys breaks the wax seal, his eyes scanning the letter. The flickering candlelight does little to soften the deep lines on his face. His breath is slow, tired. Finally, he exhales and delivers the words, "Daemon's wife is dead." Across the chamber, Daemon Targaryen stands motionless. He does not ask how. He does not reach for the letter. He does not blink. There is no shock, no grief, only silence. Viserys watches him carefully, searching his face for something, anything, but there is nothing to find. Daemon neither confirms nor denies. He simply waits, and in that silence, both men understand. Days later, Daemon rides through the streets of King's Landing, golden-cloaked soldiers trailing behind him. The people do not cheer. They do not jeer. They only watch, because they know this is no longer a rogue prince. This is a man who does not wait for power to be given. He takes it. With Rhea Royce gone, her lands and wealth are unclaimed, and Daemon wastes no time. In a single stroke, he removes an obstacle and secures more power than ever before. Daemon Targaryen is no longer just the rogue prince. He is the future king, and now he is free to choose his queen. A king's duty is to rule, to endure. Viserys the First Targaryen had a choice. Marry again, strengthen his claim, ensure his line. He did none of it. The day he named his brother Daemon as heir, he sealed his fate. From that moment, the fire within him dimmed. His strength waned. His will faded. And not long after, the king who once sought peace simply stopped fighting to live. The great dragon of House Targaryen was no more. Before the bells have finished tolling, Daemon Targaryen stands in the throne room. He does not wait for a council. He does not wait for approval. He ascends the steps, his boots echoing in the silence. And then he sits. This realm belongs to him. One by one, the lords before him bow. But not all kneel. Across the sea, in the halls of Dragonstone, Rhaenyra Targaryen stands before her council. On the table before her, a raven's message lies open. The words are clear, undeniable. Her hands tremble, not with grief, but with fury. Daemon has taken what was meant to be hers. Her eyes burn like dragon fire. Her jaw tightens. The weight of betrayal settles in, but there is no hesitation, no doubt. She turns to her most trusted lords, her firm voice unyielding. Daemon Targaryen is no king. He is a thief. The words hang in the air, heavy with promise. She will not yield. Daemon strengthens his hold on the throne. Rhaenyra gathers her banners, and Westeros holds its breath. The war has begun, not with swords, but with fire. 2 dragons, 1 throne. Westeros is divided, and soon, fire and blood will decide who truly rules. As Westeros braces for war, two men meet in secret, in the depths of the Red Keep, beyond the reach of prying eyes. Daemon Targaryen and Lord Corlys Velaryon stand face to face. Two conquerors. Two men who understand that power is not merely taken, it is secured. Daemon speaks with certainty. Rhaenyra will not surrender. The war will be swift, decisive, but to win, he will need the strength of Velaryon ships. Corlys listens in silence. His face betrays nothing, but his mind is already weighing the odds, measuring risk against reward. And then, Daemon makes his offer. Laena Velaryon will be his queen. The words linger between them, not a plea, but a pact. A trade of bloodlines forged in ambition, not love. Corlys considers. His daughter, bound to the crown. His house forever entwined with the throne. Velaryon supremacy in Westeros, secured for generations. At last he nods. The decision is made. The fleet will sail at dawn. The lines are drawn. The fleet sets sail. And soon the skies will burn. Daemon Targaryen has claimed his throne. Rhaenyra refuses to yield, and House Velaryon has chosen a side. But loyalty is not given freely, and the tides of war can shift with the wind. The skies above Westeros have never been quiet for long. The war has begun, not with armies, but with dragons. Caraxes the bloodworm soars above the crown lands, his crimson scales glowing under the sun's dying light. Below, banners burn, soldiers scatter, and the realm watches in terror. Daemon Targaryen does not wait for war to come to him. He brings it to Dragonstone. And he is not alone. A roar splits the heavens. A second shadow streaks across the sky, golden against the blackening clouds. Syrax. Rhaenyra's dragon cuts through the air, wings beating with fury. She has come to meet him, to end this before it begins. Fire against fire, blood against blood, a throne that cannot be shared. There are no words, no negotiations, only war. Caraxes and Syrax collide in midair, claws raking against scales, teeth snapping at necks. Their roars shake the ground below, a storm of wings and fire raging across the sky. Daemon and Rhaenyra move as one with their dragons, each knowing the other's skill, each countering the other's attack before it lands. But dragons are not invincible. A mistimed dive, a vicious swipe. Syrax's talons rake against Carax's wing, tearing through flesh. The great red dragon lets out a shriek of pain, his flight faltering. Syrax too is wounded. Her golden scales are scorched black, her movements growing sluggish. Neither dragon can hold the skies much longer. Caraxes is the first to fall, spiraling toward the earth. Daemon grips the saddle, cursing as the ground rushes toward him. Moons later, Syrax follows, landing heavily with a wounded cry. Rhaenyra's breath is ragged, her hands trembling against the reins. The battle is over, but not won. And so, the war does not end in the sky, but on the ground. Daemon rises from the dirt, shaking off the dust and blood. The battlefield smolders, the air thick with fire and steel. Above him, Syrax lands. Rhaenyra dismounts, blade in hand, her golden hair wild, her breath sharp, her fury unmistakable. She fights for a crown. She fights for what is hers. Daemon does not draw his sword. He does not move to strike. Instead, he speaks. Aegon the Conqueror did not take Westeros for ambition alone. He saw what was coming. A war not for power, but for survival. A darkness rising from the north, one that only a Targaryen on the Iron Throne can stand against. Rhaenyra stiffens. Her father never spoke of this, never shared this burden. The weight of Daemon's words presses down on her, heavier than the steel in her hands. And if House Targaryen falls now, there will be no one left to stand when the darkness comes. Silence. The fire in her eyes dims, not gone, but wavering. For the first time, she does not see a rival before her. She sees an ally. The war ends not with fire, not with death, but with a proposal. A marriage, a bond that would unite the blood of old Valyria once more. Daemon Targaryen, the rogue king. Rhaenyra Targaryen, the rightful heir. Together, fire and blood. The news spreads faster than wildfire. Daemon Targaryen and Rhaenyra Targaryen are to be wed. The throne, once contested, will now be shared. The blood of old Valyria will rule as one. The nobles of Westeros react with shock, with whispers, with uneasy glances across their great halls. But in Driftmark, the reaction is not silence. It is rage. Inside High Tide, the great seat of House Velaryon, Corlys Velaryon stands before the roaring fireplace. The letter in his hand trembles, the wax seal of House Targaryen already broken. He reads it once, twice. Then without a word, he crushes it in his fist. Behind him, Princess Rhaenys Targaryen watches carefully. She has known her husband for decades, has seen his ambition, his loyalty, and now his fury. Laena was promised a crown. Their house was promised a future bound in fire and blood. But now it is Rhaenyra who sits upon the throne. Corlys exhales slowly, but when he finally speaks, his voice is cold, unyielding. Daemon swore their daughter would be queen, that their legacy would shape the realm for generations. Now, everything has changed. House Targaryen has made a mistake. And House Velaryon does not forgive mistakes. Tell us what you think would have happened in the comments below. The next day, the Velaryon fleet moves. From Driftmark, 100 warships set sail, their banners flapping in the wind. They do not head for war, but for dominance. Within days, King's Landing is surrounded. The Blackwater Bay is no longer free. No ships come in, no ships leave. The ports are choked with masts, the royal harbor locked in an iron grip. Above, the mighty Vhagar soars, her colossal wings casting shadows over the Velaryon fleet, an ancient guardian ensuring no enemy dares to challenge the strength of House Velaryon. Corlys Velaryon has cut the capital off from the world. He does not send a raven. He does not ask for demands. His message is clear. You have stolen my daughter's crown. Now I will steal your throne. Westeros expected a war between two Targaryens. Now there is a Velaryon on top. In the Red Keep, Daemon and Rhaenyra stand over the painted table, the map of Westeros stretched between them. A messenger kneels, breathless. The city is blocked. No grain, no trade. Starvation will come soon. Daemon exhales, fingers drumming against the wood. The sea snake has made his move. Rhaenyra paces, frustration sharp. This is treason. Daemon nods, but his mind is already working beyond anger. War is not the answer. They cannot fight Corlys Velaryon. They need him. Silence. Then Rhaenyra exhales, studying him. If not war, then what? Daemon adjusts the sword at his hip. He will go to Driftmark himself. What will he offer? His smirk returns, slow and sharp. Enough to bring Corlys back into the fold. Daemon Targaryen has never been one for diplomacy, but today he must make a deal with a man he has betrayed. The realm is on the edge of chaos once more. Daemon and Rhaenyra have united, but House Velaryon holds the seas. The capital is trapped. people grow restless, and Corlys Velaryon is not a man who bluffs. The war for the Iron Throne is not over, it is only beginning. The sky over Driftmark darkens. Winds howl across the cliffs of high tide. The waves churn, restless. And above it all, wings carve through the sky. Caraxes descends. The bloodworm circles the castle before landing in the courtyard, the force of his wings sending guards staggering backward. His serpentine neck coils, his golden eyes locking onto the men who dare to stand before his rider. Daemon Targaryen dismounts. He does not wait for permission. He does not wait for an escort. He strides forward, the heat of the dragon still clinging to his skin. He does not come to Driftmark as a guest. He comes as a king who needs a fleet. In the great hall of high tide, Corlys Velaryon sits in silence, fingers drumming against the armrest of his chair. His gaze is distant, calculating. Beside him, Rhaenys watches as Daemon enters. He does not bow. Corlys does not rise. Between them, unfinished war lingers. Daemon exhales. The war is not over. The realm remains divided. He will not let King's Landing starve over old grievances. Corlys listens, unreadable. He holds the strongest fleet. Daemon holds the throne. If they are to stand together, it must be as equals. Power shifts between them like the tide. Then slowly, Corlys leans forward. One promise has already been broken. Why should he risk his ships, his men, his legacy for another? Daemon knows the price. Corlys will not sail as a vassal. He will sail as Hand of the King. The demand falls like a hammer. Daemon does not hesitate. Done. But Corlys is not finished. The next generation must be secured. Daemon's heir will marry a Velaryon. Even Rhaenys turns at that. Daemon studies him, then nods. The pact is sealed, a deal carved not in ink, but in ambition. By dawn, the blockade is lifted. Velaryon ships part for the first time in weeks, their sails no longer a symbol of defiance, but of power standing beside the throne. Daemon Targaryen has kept his kingdom intact. But power does not come without price. The sea snake has won more than just a seat at the table. He has secured the future of his house, his name, and his bloodline. But even the strongest alliances are built on fragile ground. The war is won, but peace is never certain. In King's Landing, Daemon Targaryen sits upon the Iron Throne, black fire resting across his lap. Rhaenyra stands beside him, and Corlys Velaryon watches from his seat as Hand of the King. The banners are raised. The court kneels, but not all kneel. The Hightowers hold Old Town. The Lannisters watch from Casterly Rock. The Starks remain silent in the north. The realm bows, for now. The dragons have reclaimed the realm. But power is fleeting, and history does not end. It only waits for its next chapter. The story of House Targaryen is far from over. What do you think would have happened? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this alternate history, like, comment, and subscribe for more what-if scenarios from the world of Westeros. The war is won, but the game never ends.